All right. Hopefully, some of you guys were around for the talk with Jennifer and are able to stay for the next talk. I'm talking with David Swanson. He's another mayor candidate. Just want to say hello. Thank you for coming. Hopefully, we're going to have a great talk today. And let's bring in David. Hello, David. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to having a talk with me. And we got some people watching. That's great. Engagement is good to get to know you already, so that's good. So, just like with Jennifer, I'm gonna do the exact same questions and go from there. And a little about yourself. What do you do on a normal day?
I'm an AV driver by trade.
Okay.
So I've operated all of the primary services that the municipal corporation, the county of Brant, does. I've been a garbage man. I've paved the roads. I've built parking lots. I've operated concrete trucks. And I've operated multi-million dollar winter maintenance contracts in York Region for James Dick and Rafat, as well as been in charge of the yard at City of Toronto privatized their winter maintenance program back in 2021. There are two contractors that do it. One is Snow TO, the other one is A&F DeCarlo. And I was in charge of the yard. We had 90 pieces of equipment between skid steers or like bobcats, loaders, F550s, the big snowplow trucks that I drive, and pickup trucks, and making sure they're all and executing the plan, making sure everything runs smoothly. So on a day-to-day side, I'm very experienced with the primary concerns of and what everybody expects, the roads to be pothole free, and the garbage to be picked up, and the snow to be cleared. So I'm very experienced in what we do in terms of operations of the county of Brant.
Nice. Yeah, that's quite the experience there. On the infrastructure side, all around.
Yes.
That's one of the hot topics as well, especially in Paris. So let's yeah. So I know you ran last in 2022 for the county of Brant to be mayor again. That was your first time running?
No, I have in the city of Brantford. I ran in 2014, and then again in 2018. 2014 was like, completely inexperienced take on it. 2018 was a year I was really looking forward to being a part of City of Brantford Council, and so 2022 was the first time that I ran for mayor, and I've learned a lot. And like I said, so right at the beginning of or shortly before the opening of the campaign season this year, we were at an airport meeting, and it was when Mayor Bailey announced that he would not be seeking re-election for the first time. And prior to that, Mark Littell had said, "Swanson, how are you? You going to run for mayor this year?" And I said, "Well, I've never lost my conviction that I would do the job very well." And so that's how we got to this year. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So I guess building onto that, so your experience running there and since 2014, that's good experience for there. What would your experience and help? Actually, no, I skipped the question. There you go. Get to know you about, I guess, other things. Yeah, we've run a couple times. What would help the Olive County, because it's a big area, get to know you better? Like, are you Are you do you have any events coming up or anything like that, or that they could ask you questions face to face?
I have gone to every event that I have been invited to or overheard that has happened.
Okay.
And I never, ever, I have a huge following on social media. Like some very heavy accounts follow me and have interacted with me over the years. And so there are no topics with me that are off limits, and I am genuine. There, I do not give the the typical political answer of I will find, anything like that. I will say sometimes I don't know. I'm not an expert on every topic. I haven't been hired to do some of the more specific jobs and responsibilities that the municipal governments have in their jurisdiction or purview. There are some topics, I could benefit from doing some homework on. But the vast majority, and I'll admit that, if I don't know the answer, and I do get back to people, but in terms of interaction on Facebook, I don't have a block list. I don't delete comments. If I've been at it for a long time. I've got millions, definitely millions and millions of views over the years. So the arena of intellectual combat, which is the whole job. Like as the mayor, you're the face of the local government. And so people that, maybe don't write their own posts are really heavy on the buzzwords and pretty heavy handed with the block button or the mute button or the delete on comments they, don't want to, answer or that kind of thing. That is not at all anything that I do.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna see you dancing on TikTok. Is that one of the platforms?
I'll tell you that line dancing. So we've had 2 line dancing events, and I quite like it. As I was a very good athlete. I was a great Taekwondo player. I went to the U.S. Open back in 2006. I was a national team member as a silver medalist as a junior in 97 and 2001. And I captained our rugby team at BCI. And, we were we won the Ontario's 4 out of the 5 years that I was there. And so in terms of dancing, I've taken up line dancing. I like it quite a bit. It's a very accessible activity. And the promenade last night, and I think it was about a month ago, we had another event, and that was the only video that I've seen of the Downtown Dig Facebook account for, the County of Brant and whoever operates that. That's the only one that's got a lot of views, 28,000 on it and counting, and I'm pretty prominent in that one. So, I guess it's not on TikTok. I'm not dancing on TikTok.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I guess getting down, next question. So with your past experience, what's going to help you become a great mayor for the County of Brant?
Well, number one, pushing for the basic income pilot program. That is something that we very much need, and not just in the County of Brant, basically everywhere. Our society now, we do not, if you were to go back 200 years and everything was done by hand. There was not the industrial revolution yet. If you were to go back 2,000 years prior to that, so like BC from 1700, and you go back through all of those eras till 2,000 years prior, everything was done by hand. And so now we have a world in which every invention all the way along has been freeing us from having to do the work. I've worked in the mining industry, and I can tell you that 200 years ago, it would have taken hundreds of people to do the kind of labor we do with 5 guys and machines of today. And so the basic income pilot program, and I was at Riverside Health Hub. I don't think I got that name right. Forgive me, but they had a big talk, and at the end of it, I asked them about how the basic income pilot program, how that affected their clients or their patients, and they said anybody that was on it dropped off completely from needing our services. And so, that puts money in people's pockets. It doesn't get caught up in bureaucracy where, you get very, very highly paid people in welfare and income redistribution positions, and only a little trickle, makes it out. So pursuing that's the best way. And to revive any downtown and any local business is getting people to have money in their pockets to spend it locally. And I really do feel that if we do not get this done on the hurry up, I don't understand what we're doing, period. Because the poor people, we've all seen it in the last, 10 years, but especially the last 6, since 2020, when the lockdowns happened and we had a whole bunch of people come into our country, and now a great percentage of people don't have any money. And you're starting to see, when was the last time, you see Tim Hortons closing? Well, that is extremely rare, but that is happening now. And most businesses, restaurants, downtown Paris are closed at 9 p.m. That's a pretty early closure. And so if we do not get this done on the hurry up, things are just going to get more desperate and a whole lot worse than they already are.
Okay. So that basic income should help with that then.
Basic income will help tremendously with that. And the second half, actually, just to, continue on that, the 1-2 punch of my, on what I want to accomplish. The second half is using tax credits. And actually it was Bonnie Crombie this morning that it came across to me that they will be using, I believe she's the mayor or candidate to be mayor of Mississauga. And she's talking using property tax credits for businesses relief and defer it because, as a municipal corporation, we can pay our employees and our contractors with property tax credits. And that means that we are not paying interest on that debt. That is going out in the community. And the best part about that is property tax credits can only be spent in the county of Brant. It does zero good, and not just for the county of Brant, but any municipality. It does no good for the people that are on the taxpayers, that the taxpayers pay to be employed, anybody that works for the county or as a contractor of the county. It does no good when those dollars go and get spent in Cuba, go get spent in Mexico, go get spent in Amazon. That money leaves our community and generally does not return. So by using property tax credits, not only are we not, paying interest and increasing our debt servicing costs, which in the county right now is north of $7 million. And that's a lot of money. That employs a lot of people at $100,000 and even more at $50,000 a year. We could pay a lot of people with $7 million. So anything that chips away at that is a good thing, as well as the fact that it is completely spent locally.
Okay. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that one before.
Well, a lot of people, that's a big one. You can imagine if you are the bank or, a bondholder, you wouldn't be too happy. You wouldn't be too happy about somebody saying, hey, wait a minute. This guy is saying he's not going to pay us interest for the use of money. And it's just like, well, it's just the right thing to do. I don't know if you're a student of the Bible or anything like that, but if you follow the money in the Bible, it's very clear that interest on debt is not that's not the path to heaven. And it certainly is the crushing number on most provincial and federal government balance sheets is the debt servicing costs, and that's interest. And I don't, I'm still a payer of that. I have a mortgage, or well, anyway, credit cards, but everybody else, right? Mortgages, credit cards, and the taxes we pay. Somebody's collecting that interest, and let's face it, it's not the vast majority of us. So ending that is, it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Nice. I guess going off the sport, the support, the people, and then what about the supporting rural communities and agriculture? Because you've got your background in the paving and all that stuff. So it's how you got any background on agriculture? Because we have a lot of that in the county. We do have the I would say almost city of Paris nowadays. It used to be the town, but we have little municipalities. But we got a lot of agriculture. So what can you bring to the table to help them?
On the agriculture side, I've stacked hay in a barn before, and I've picked ginseng and moved the shade, the old wooden shade in the fields. Now it's like a nylon tarp style. Yep. But I don't know much about agriculture other than those guys generally just want the government out of the way. And, I think the last bit of a meeting that I was present at, it started at a agricultural committee meeting or an adjustment committee meeting, one of the two. But Mark Eddy was lamenting the fact that on the planning side, because we're a rural community and a lot of farm vehicles are oversized, which I have experience at, I, being an AZ driver, I've taken big wide loads, needing pilot cars and, some very serious work. And so, on the agricultural side, in the county here, the planning department, and they do a great job. They do a great job, and nobody's perfect. But they didn't look at the map and say, hey, this is a rural road. We better not put these curbs in this close or put these posts in this close. So on the rural side and agricultural side, the farmers will have my ear 100% to make sure that they're very able to continue on business as usual and have a friend that is not going to encroach. And for instance, the CPPS, which was a pretty good rewrite of the permit rule book, and rural people were kind of up in arms about it because it changes some rules and the adjustment committee is no longer going to be there. So there are some really great and experienced voices that understand the scenarios that you run into on the rural and agricultural side that I don't have expertise in that. But, I was really saddened by the fact that after the staff said, oh no, we've got all these rules rewritten perfectly and it's automated, they said that a day after after Mark Eddy came in and said, hey, this road's too narrow and now we got to move the curbs and the hydro posts. Well, that's not something that city staff can pull off on a weekend. That's a big, huge expense. And, so on my approach to that would be the agricultural people, the farmers, and the people that live in rural areas. Like I live out here in Highland Estates. I have 2.5 acres. I'm very used to being able to have the freedom to exercise my good judgment in maintaining my property, be it, felling a tree and burning it down and that kind of burn it off and that kind of thing. So they will definitely find a very open ear and somebody that really and lives a very adjacent lifestyle. Like, I pass a number of farms to get home, and I've lived here in this house for 42 years, 42 years now. And
Wow.
so, on that side of it, on the permitting side, the agricultural and rural people will find a very good friend in me. And just one more thing to add to that, in 2022, a very popular saying I had was the homestead haven. And I think there's a lot of overlap. Now, I know it's different, but the homestead havens, people that want to have, an animal or two or whatever, and have a veggie stand at the end of the driveway. I would really like to amplify that. And in fact, I do know that there's a community food donation tax credit offered by the province, and I would really like to amplify that, because there's a lot of people, that want to do that, but it's an undertaking, and so if we can sweeten the pot for them to make sure that we're using our space. Because I mean, I've like I said, I've lived out here for 42 years. I've cut the grass. I've got a lot of hours on a lawnmower, and there's nothing to show for that. There's nothing to show for all of that cutting the grass, right? So if we can really use our space more effectively, the people that want to be in the food production, be it a small homestead or our rural area, and our farmers, they'll definitely have a very good friend in me.
Nice. And yet, okay, we got our first comment, which is great. If there's the people watching, if you have any comments, throw them on. I'll throw up this question. Let's have Debbie's question up front here. What are your thoughts on the strong mayor powers, and would you be prepared to implement them in the Brant County?
Yeah, that's right. I was expecting that, and I think of it as a fire extinguisher. I have been in charge of many people before, like 35, 50 employees that are reporting directly to me. And on the 80-20 issues, if common sense is prevailing in the 80 column, I see no reason to, there's no reason to do that. But at the same time, sometimes on the 80-20 issues, sometimes the 20 has it right. And, so I'll never rule that out. But, I have learned over the years of earning, because respect and devotion and loyalty are not things you can get. You can't whip people with that. You can't talk down to them and get that out of them. So on the strong mayor side, there are times when leadership makes a decision that maybe maybe we have better information. I mean, there are such things as in-camera meetings and details that we simply, we cannot divulge all of the information out there. And I want to be clear, I'm not a big fan of obfuscating or having like an opaque relationship with the public. But there are timings and scenarios where, you do have to say, well, it would be much more damaging to let this out now. So maybe on the occasions where, we cannot do that and it's an 80-20 issue, I'm prepared to say, hey, I earned everybody's trust during the election to get the job as mayor, and this is one of the tools in the toolbox. And if I think that's the right decision, I'll do it. And because I've done that before, and it just. But I want to be clear, that is not anywhere. That is not my go-to. Hopefully the strong mayor rule book has dust on it if ever it has to be, used. Like that is not something, I'm rubbing my hands together going, oh, that is not anything. That is not anything that I'm looking to go with at all. So.
Thanks. That was a good answer for that. So I will. There's no more other questions from there, so I'll move on to the next question I have. So, if you were to get elected, is there stuff that you would like to see done? I know from the lead up meeting that Mark had, there is quite the learning curve there is. So it's that. But of course, it's an interview, just like a job interview for the first. That's always the one question: is what would you like to see yourself in 5 years? Well, the term is 4 years, so let's go with 1 year. What would you like to see with the county if you were elected as mayor?
What would I like to see? Definitely a prosperous community that has continued to be a high trust community. I was at the Paris Drinks Fest, and that was extremely well attended. And the line dancing last night, that was extremely well attended. And but at the Drinks Fest, I like to dance. I like to dance. I really enjoy music, and so in terms of community involvement, I want everybody there. But I want to say this story is. I'm also a teetotaler, so I don't drink hardly at all. Or I guess that's not a teetotaler. It's either one or the other, but very, very limited. And I left my phone on my lawn chair, and it was right between the soundboard and the small path and the seating. And my phone was still, I got out there and I was 5 minutes out there and I'm like, hey, where's my phone? And I'm like, oh my God, I left it at my chair. And it was still there. So our high trust society and our high trust community that we're in, to protect that is extremely important, because I don't know if you've traveled or the audience has, but if you've ever gone to, places where pickpocketing is an issue and there are bars on the windows, that is nothing that I never, ever, I don't wish that upon anybody in this entire world. And I certainly don't want to see that happen to our community out here in the county, because we don't have that now. And you're seeing it creep into Brantford. Because, I spent a lot of time in the city of Brantford. There's a no-go zone now. That area, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but it's important. This is our next door neighbor, and a lot of people go into Brantford for a lot of stuff, right? So between Shallow Creek Park, along the canal, on basically if you follow Greenwich Street, you end up at Mohawk Park, and you can take a trail there. Well, that's a no-go zone now. There are a lot of tents and a lot of tarps and a lot of people that have it very tough. And I don't want to see that continue. I don't want to see it expand. I'd like to see those people properly housed. And so in terms of the vision of the county, I want to make sure that does not start to come out this way. And that's why, to tie it into basic income and tax credits, that's why I'm campaigning for that, because, like the ladies at the Health Hub noticed, that is the most effective program that there has ever been. And I did vote for Premier Ford, and I was at his inauguration, and I'm sorry I called him Rob. Whatever. Anyway, I was seriously disappointed in that, because that's also a great way, to spur local businesses, because these people, now they're going to spend it. They're going to spend it going out to dinner, go out for ice cream, maybe shoot some pool and do, activities, go to the pool, go swimming, go to the skates. So that's one thing that I will definitely be a huge proponent of and participant of, is community events where, it's skating, or I can't believe, a lot of people in the county of Brant play softball and baseball, and there's no County of Brant versus the Citizen softball game. Like, come on, to not have stuff like that. And last night at the line dancing, there was probably, there was over 100 people there, easy. And I was the only person. I was the only candidate. I was the only candidate there. And I thought, we have this, we have an obesity, diabetic, problem. And I'm the only candidate here at an activity. And what was great about that activity was there were, very energetic young children, like children that were 10 years old. They can stand there and learn how to do some steps. It's easy enough to do. There were some very skilled 20-year-olds. And there were middle-aged guys like me, and also the white hairs, because everybody can do that. And so in terms of what I would like to see, I want to see the high trust society. I want to see people being able to enjoy the modern world. And I want to see everybody out at, or as many people as they can, in community events, because not only is the health issue, but there's also the isolation aspect where many people are just, sitting at home watching their screens, like, holy, there's so many people are missing a lot of life. And unfortunately, a great deal of that is due to the fact that they can't go out, because when you go out, it's going to cost you, $20, that's part of the reason why I don't drink too. Not only because, I've lived under a microscope for quite some time now, but also it's just, a drink here or there is okay. But I mean, like at the end of the day, alcohol is not good for you. You get hungover, and, I don't think anybody has ever said, oh boy, that was a great decision I made when I was drunk. So on the one hand, I do like to see that less people are drinking, but on the other hand, the attendance at certain social events and being out in the community is way down. And I have no desire to continue on the path of the human experience being faced in a screen for the 65 years of your life, and that's a horrible way to spend your life. And I have no desire. I expect to lead by example to get people involved in the great experience of being a human being.
All right. That seems like a good segue into my next question is, how would you improve public engagement?
Oh, stuff like that. Definitely being out and involved. You'll notice, it's too bad. I know a lot of people were at the event last night, but you would have definitely seen David, you would have seen me do, line dancing and then go and talk to somebody. Do the line dancing and then go to talk to somebody. Do the line dance and do that repeatedly. And some people, you never know, it's a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. And right. So, like I kind of said earlier, I talk to everybody. And so I don't have a block list. And I think that making sure even comments that, and opinions that are not, you don't disagree, you need to make sure that those people have access to you, because, nobody, I don't have all of the right answers. A lot of people say, oh, well, there's David Swanson. But anyway, the point is how I have gotten this far is listening to veterans and listening to people that have experience and implementing that all the way along. And so the haters or your criticisms, that's the most honest feedback that you get. Is now it might be a little more insulting or incendiary than it needs to be, but you can bet your bottom dollar that those people see an injustice from their point of view, right? From their point of view, and you have to listen to that, and you have to make sure that those people are able to contribute. because they give you honest feedback, and they might have, your number on a blind spot that you weren't considering, and I hate to go back to, the council, but on the current council, like, how did that road get built and nobody asked the farmers? Nobody went through the permit rewrite or the road, how we evaluate our roads and what has to be what. And again, you really have to listen to the experienced people and get their perspective, and not come at it as a know-it-all. Like, you cannot do that. And so how my community engagement will be, even the haters will have their time to speak, because maybe I don't like to say it like this, but even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So,
Yep.
Anybody that takes the time to research an issue will have an opportunity, and be it in public or at council or an email or any of those kinds of things, you will definitely find somebody like me, who, one of the usual compliments that I get is my temperament, because I've got it's funny, I detect the insults immediately. I detect them immediately. But, I've got a very thick skin, and I also understand, in terms of having managed people over so many years, that, sometimes somebody, their dog died, or somebody cut them off, or they're under some financial stress, and you just caught them at the wrong time. So it's pretty easy to recognize a bad day from a bad apple, and
Right.
you just gotta roll with the punches, because again, that's a huge part of this job. It is going to be exceptionally rare to keep everybody happy all of the time, because as I've learned over the years, the customer is always right, even when they're wrong. They're right about it. So you just gotta know it's a real balancing act, and I'm known for doing that balancing act between really strong personalities extremely well.
Nice. The next question is I have, and yeah, so what do you have, like any planned events you have upcoming? Of course, if you have any, you can always send them, say you're going to be, at the Paris Fair on this day, if people want to see you, or if you have any events that you have planned on coming on, let me know. But also is like, yeah, do you have any of those kind of things that people can get to know you better?
In terms of, I generally like, so I play Mahjong on Thursdays, and I play Mahjong on Thursdays and Fridays. Obviously not today, because we've got this going on today. Play euchre in St. George, and in Burford, and I do karaoke. I like to sing. I don't know that I'm very good at it, but I like to do it at Bayou, and any of the events, like the one at the Marriott on Tuesday. Of course, I'll be there. But in terms of like a David Swanson, like come and meet David Swanson at some venue that I've rented, I do have some like a want to do that. I do have a want to do that. But as of now, like, my schedule keeps filling up with places that other people are already going to be there. So, but of course, that'll have to be a very public event. I had my birthday party. I had my birthday party here last year. It was a roast. Everybody got to come up and make fun of me for a little while. That was pretty funny. It was great. It was great. So, but in terms of any like a David Swanson specific event, that's in the works. I want to do something around my birthday, but that also is Thanksgiving weekend, and it's also starting to fill in with the debates. So,
Right.
and from so do I want to do that? Of course, but have I got a date specific for that? No, I don't have one, but I'm always accessible no matter where I am. So
Okay, sounds good. If you have any that come up, let me know. I can always throw them up in the event calendar as well. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to do is promote all this stuff. So we have a question from Eric. Let me throw that up on the screen. The council has implemented the long-term strategic plan. Thoughts on what the plan? I'm guessing he's talking about the one plan.
Well, as much as those are planned, when you start counting the amendments to the plan, they can become, they'll really outnumber the original vision. But in terms of the long-term strategic plan, which in my opinion is getting good value for taxpayers' dollars, if they want to get specific about it, I think there are two sites that are particularly that were council issues and over the last couple of months, and they're the two parking lots that are behind council. The one where the OPP station was, and the other one where it looks like they're picking away. I saw some people with shovels there. So maybe they're getting ready to do some digging. I think that parking is a tremendous issue in the downtown of Paris, because even for Paris Drinks Fed, maybe that gets alleviated when the bridges opened. I don't know, because there's maybe more parking on the other side. But in terms of parking in the downtown, I think it would be really wrong to give away the ground floor or the street level. That's a better way. The street level and give those parking spots away to commercial real estate only. I think that we could still continue to have adequate parking and leave the street level as parking and build the commercial and residentials on top of that. I know there was some I know there was some pushback on some taller buildings in downtown Paris. But at the same time, when you look at the numbers, if we have more residents in the downtown spending more money, the business community is going to love that. Is that going to be congested traffic wise? Maybe not. I think at peak times, that's just the name of the game. There's no such thing as a vibrant downtown that at rush hour it's not slow. But I've driven a lot of places, and what people think as traffic in Branchford and Brant County is just like, it's worse than it was, but like, make no mistake, it doesn't, especially while the construction is going on, like that doesn't count as traffic. When the construction is and there's still tremendous delays, that's traffic. But when the construction is ongoing, traffic is, it's an issue, but the scenario isn't the reality that it will be. And all I can say is implementing in the downtown, and this is more of a traffic department, but if anybody's been to Toronto, like Jarvis Street or Church Street, the north and southbound lanes change depending on the time of day. There's more southbound lanes in the morning and more northbound lanes in the evening. So I think that routing and street planning and one ways or that kind of thing can do a really great job in terms of moving traffic. But just to jump back to that a bit about the strategic plan, because that really does talk. That was those two sites, the OPP building and the one beside the Wincy Mills. In terms of the ground floor, I'd like to see that remain as parking, and the commercial and residential be above that, because how it is now, and the possibility, and it was thrown around at council too, that they were talking about paid parking, and it's like, the downtown businesses, and I do understand, there's definitely a sore spot with the fact that the traffic is not there. And when you talk to people, they do avoid downtown Paris because of the traffic. So, the businesses are really hurting from that. And, it's pretty unfair to blame council for that. But when all of this is done, council is throwing around the idea. The answer is not no. The answer is we have no plans as of yet. But the answer is not no to paid for parking. And I don't think that is helpful because, if the downtown businesses are hurting, it's not going to be helpful to take, I don't know what the fee would be, but it's probably not going to be $2, even though that would be, pretty nominal. But if it's like a $5 or $7 to park downtown, all of a sudden, every business now has like $5 or $7 per customer less that is going to be spent in their stores, especially if people are going there repeatedly. So, in terms of the long-term strategic plan, if those two sites were part of the question, I think that when we have more people that can visit during the peak times. When we have more people that can visit during the peak times, and if we increase the amount of people that live downtown with money in their pocket, everybody will be very happy. So I hope that answer. That's a pretty broad question, right? So, yeah.
I guess the next question, if anybody else has any questions online, throw them in. We have a couple more minutes on this schedule. Next question I had was about the hospital. That's one of the other hot topics. You've been following Brantford and Brant County for a while. What are your thoughts on that? Especially when, we need to raise money for it. So you've had some other ideas for other things. So let's. What are your thoughts on getting that new hospital, which is kind of in the works, but yeah, it's kind of a long-term plan for that too.
Well, it's a huge investment. A hospital is not going to be built. Hopefully it could be built within 2 years' time, but we'll see what happens. There's always a little bit. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But anyway, definitely a site is very important. There's a fellow, Mark St. Angelo, that is running in, I believe it's Ward 2, don't quote me on that, but he's running for council in the city of Brantford. And I will say, there's a lot of possibilities. And actually, this is actually one of the things that I wanted to bring up. I didn't put it in anyway. So is the lack of cohesion between Brantford and the county of Brant, oh my God, the city of Brantford and the county of Brant are natural dance partners. And so on an issue like the hospital, where everybody, both the county of Brant and the city of Brantford, are gonna want to be able to take, that's gonna have to service both of us. And so, my approach to that will be, of course, wherever the best logistical place, right? To, if it's about emergency response time, then wherever the county can work. And of course, who in the right mind would say, no to a new hospital. my position is being somebody that spent a great deal of time in Branchford as well as the county. You'll definitely have somebody on council that is very familiar. Like at the end of the day, I'm a very well-known person in both Brantford and Brant County, and I'm known for wanting things to be positive and productive and deliver value. So I don't think that this can possibly work out well for all of us taxpayers, because at the end of the day, we're all taxpayers. It cannot possibly work out for taxpayers if Brantford takes the lead at the expense of the county, or the county takes the lead in spite of the city. This is definitely going to have to be a cohesive approach, and I'm here to deliver that 100% of the time. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Just getting close to the end of our time. I don't know if there's any more online questions, but if you have any, a couple more minutes left, and we can go through that. And then, there's another thing I have here is, so I guess starting to wrap things up, how can people follow you? Like you said, you're on social media. If you can send me those links, I'll throw them up on your page. Do you have any websites or anything like that?
I should have. You'd think I would have a website, but I don't. No, everything gets put up on Facebook. I have a public account, so it's not like one of those. It's not a private account. Anybody can see anything. And I mean, I have a very long history on there. So those are easily the best two places, because I found, I used to be able to share from Instagram to X or Twitter, whatever anybody, and you can't do that anymore. And so I've noticed that it is very hard to do a good job. It's very hard to do a good job on a website, on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. So the website went by the wayside. So in terms of that, obviously, I think my email is up there. I do think that on the email, I think I sent you the PDF of my.
I'm gonna close that up. I haven't had a minute to.
Oh yeah, you've been busy. That was not long ago that I sent that. So
yeah, I'll be working on that tonight or this weekend. So, all right, then let's get ready. I'm going to let you, just like I would do with Jennifer, I'm going to put you on the center stage. I will let you have, let's have 2 minutes to wrap things up. Anything that you want to say directly to anybody watching or anybody that's going to watch the recording, I will remove myself and then let you have a couple minutes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Yes, David Swanson here. I'm your candidate for mayor in the county of Brant. We are in a very, this is a completely different age now. The reason why I'm pushing basic income and property tax credits is because the fat cats are fatter than ever before, and the wealth just is not trickling down. I was recently at a meeting of Riverside Health Hub, and I asked at the question at the end of that meeting of when the basic income pilot program was in force, what was the experience of the people that came here to the hub? And they said they all dropped off because all of those people had the money in their pocket to solve their own problems. We are not getting any further ahead by, continuing on the path of growing the bureaucracy for people that have been taxpayers here for many generations. I don't know how long anybody has been, but you just factor in the amount of assets that our great, grandparents have contributed to and accumulated in public assets over the many years that this country has been built. And those assets are being consumed and they're being given away to people that, have never contributed to it. So to give the opportunity for our public asset cultural inheritance for Canadians, we've got to do that, because what else are we doing here? This is getting out of hand and growing the bureaucracy to have somebody that's poor and hungry and homeless and say, oh, maybe we can get to that. Oh, is that really hard? Maybe we can get to that. And you got to remember, those people have good hearts. They want to see things get done, but they're not giving, they don't have the tools to do that. They don't have their hand on the spigot. So as well as welfare people on ODSP, we should be advocating for raising the basic exemption tremendously. Somebody on ODSP that decides to go and serve coffee, these people are not even making 35 grand a year, and they lose a tremendous amount of their benefit. So on the municipal side, you guys have got to remember, governments act on the pressures put upon them. If you who's a better fighter than me for people that have shovels in their hands? Anybody that wants to work, you will have the most powerful advocate you have ever had. And so that's why I want to do that here in the county, and on the property tax side, because that's what we need to do to protect our way of life. Everybody, most of the people out here have money in their pocket to go out and enjoy the human experience, to go out with friends, grab ice cream, have a nice walk, and be in a safe area. And we've got to protect that. And we've got to have people at all levels of government fighting to protect that, and fighting for the economic democracy of the individual to pursue their own personal growth and personal happiness. And so that's the reason why I'm pushing for that from the mayoral seat. And all of you will always have my undivided attention if you've got something to say. And you'll find that my temperament is calm, cool, and collected, even in spite of some very hyperbolic and maybe hot opinions and hot attitudes of people in the opposition. But again, like I said earlier, those are the people that show you your blind spots. And so I very much enjoy and love intellectual combat. If you head over to my Facebook or Instagram or X account, you'll definitely see somebody that allows all comments all the time, and somebody that welcomes debate. Because, when we have debate, we're finding the best solution to the problem, right? And it doesn't matter whose idea it was. So.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, I hope, thank you for joining me. We used up that hour.
Yeah, I told you, like half an hour for two people, that'll go by in the blink of an eye. So
perfect. Well, thank you again for joining, and maybe we'll have another talk. It seems like we got time, but also it seems like we don't have time at the same time. It's the countdown is on for election day week. It's all online, so we'll see that. But thank you for joining me, and thanks for everybody that's joined online. And we'll watch the comments afterwards at people that couldn't make it through the live part. Thank you.
That's right.
Thanks.
Right.
There we go. Okay.